primary, and I'll take care of him. And of course, I want to be the last person in his life, and I want to live with him till the end of my life.
A family priority number one has to be children, because your children carries on your legacy. For me, the two most important is patience and understanding. There's a lot of people say love. Yeah, fine, love is good. But after 15, 20 years, the patience and understanding is going to overtake the love already. Even though there's a lot of hobbies we don't do together, but there's a lot of understanding.
A fallen king, a secret child, a shocking ultimatum that forced a royal reunion. For centuries, Malaysia's monarchy has been built on tradition, dignity, and control. But in 2019, the country witnessed an unprecedented royal scandal. Sultan Muhammad V, once the most powerful ruler in Malaysia, walked away from the throne. His reign cut short by controversy. At the heart of this storm was a marriage to a Russian model, Oksana Voevodina, and a child he never publicly acknowledged. Now, after years of silence, something has changed. The former king has finally agreed to meet his son. But this was no ordinary reunion. The conditions behind this rare encounter were so extraordinary that they left the world in shock. What was the price he had to pay to see his own child? Welcome to True Crime Family Stories, where we dive deep into chilling cases, unsolved crimes, and the dark side of human experience. Join us as we uncover hidden truths and explore the twisted corners of the criminal world. Thanks to our loyal viewers and subscribers for your support. We're grateful for your likes, comments, and subscriptions, which help us share these shocking stories and unravel mysteries that impact our lives. Subscribe and join our growing community to stay updated on gripping cases. Let's get started. Sultan Muhammad V's relationship with Oksana Voevodina was a whirlwind romance that defied expectations. Their secret wedding in Moscow, followed by a lavish reception in Malaysia, made headlines across the world. But the fairy tale ended just as quickly as it began. Only weeks after their son was born, the marriage crumbled. The Sultan invoked a controversial Islamic divorce procedure, severing all ties with Oksana. What followed was even more shocking. Complete silence. The former king distanced himself entirely, refusing to acknowledge the child as his heir. While Oksana fought publicly for recognition and financial support, the Sultan remained hidden, avoiding any direct confrontation. But now, after years of denial, he has finally agreed to face the child he once turned away. The question is, what changed? What was the condition that forced his hand? Sultan Muhammad V was not the kind of ruler to follow tradition without question. Known for his more relaxed and modern approach to leadership, he often broke the mold of what was expected from Malaysian royalty. But even his boldest supporters never anticipated what would come next: his sudden marriage to a Russian beauty queen. Oksana Voevodina was a model and a former winner of the Miss Moscow pageant. With striking looks and an international presence, she had little connection to Malaysia's royal world before meeting the Sultan. Their relationship was unconventional, and when news broke that they had secretly wed in Moscow in 2018, it sent shockwaves through both Malaysian society and Russian media. This was not just a marriage between two people. It was a collision of two vastly different worlds. Oksana, who had been raised in a secular environment, had to undergo a significant transformation. She converted to Islam before the wedding, adopting a new name, Rihanna Oksana Gorbatenko. This step was essential to be accepted as the wife of a reigning monarch. Yet, even this effort wasn't enough to silence the growing criticism surrounding their union. The backlash was immediate. many in Malaysia questioned the suitability of a foreign model as the queen consort. Critics pointed to Oksana's past, including her participation in beauty pageants and rumors about her personal life, elements that clashed with the conservative expectations of a royal spouse. Meanwhile, members of the palace remained tight-lipped, offering no official recognition of the marriage. Despite the controversy, the couple pressed forward. In November 2018, they held a lavish wedding reception in Moscow, attended by high-profile guests. Oksana shared glimpses of her new life on social media, showcasing her transformation into a royal wife. She expressed admiration for her husband and spoke of her willingness to embrace Malaysian traditions. Soon after, the couple received news that should have solidified their bond. Oksana was pregnant. She publicly expressed her joy, calling it a blessing and hinting at the excitement of raising a future heir. The pregnancy added another layer to the media frenzy, fueling speculation about the child's potential royal status. But behind the scenes, the cracks in their fairy tale marriage were already beginning to show. The happiness would be short-lived, and the royal romance would soon take an unexpected turn. As Oksana's pregnancy progressed, media attention intensified. She shared glimpses of her journey, expressing gratitude for the new life she was carrying. But while she spoke of love and family, the Sultan's silence was deafening. Unlike other royal pregnancies, which are typically celebrated with official announcements, there was no acknowledgement from the Malaysian palace. Behind closed doors, tensions were mounting. Reports emerged suggesting that the Sultan was facing immense pressure from royal advisors and political figures. Many believed the marriage had already caused enough controversy, and the prospect of a Russian-born child being linked to the Malaysian throne only added to their concerns. Then, just weeks before the birth of their son, the whispers of trouble became impossible to ignore. Oksana had returned to Russia, and the Sultan was nowhere to be seen. What had started as a whirlwind romance had suddenly turned into a mystery, one that would only deepen with the shocking events to come. On May 21, 2019, Oksana gave birth to a baby boy. But instead of joy, his arrival marked the beginning of the most painful chapter in their story. The Sultan, who had once promised her the world, would soon make a decision that would change everything. Just weeks after Oksana Voevodina gave birth to her son, the fairy tale came to an abrupt and brutal end. Sultan Muhammad V, once her devoted husband, initiated an Islamic divorce known as triple talaq, a controversial method that allows a Muslim man to dissolve a marriage instantly by repeating the word talaq 3 times. The timing was as shocking as the method itself. Oksana was still recovering from childbirth when news of the divorce surfaced in July 2019. But what stunned the public even more was how it was done. The Sultan had reportedly sent the divorce declaration through a legal representative in Singapore, without even confronting Oksana in person. For the former queen, the announcement came as a complete shock. She claimed she had no prior warning, and that their last interactions had given her no reason to suspect such a drastic move. To make matters worse, she had been left to raise their newborn son alone, with no formal recognition from the royal family. But while Oksana grieved publicly, the Malaysian palace remained silent. No official statement was made to confirm or deny the legitimacy of the child. Instead, the royal court distanced itself from the entire situation, treating it as if it had never happened. The royal court's silence only fueled speculation. While Oksana continued to share photos of her son, hinting at his royal lineage, the Sultan made no effort to acknowledge him. Instead, palace insiders leaked statements suggesting that the child might not be his, an implication that sent shockwaves through both Malaysian and Russian media. The public reaction was divided. Some viewed the Sultan's actions as a necessary move to protect the integrity of the monarchy, arguing that his marriage had always been a mistake. Others, however, sympathized with Oksana, seeing her as a young mother abandoned with no support. Her social media posts painted a picture of heartbreak and betrayal, with messages alluding to broken promises and a child left without a father. Meanwhile, within royal circles, the scandal had become a crisis. Malaysia's monarchy operates on a rotational system, meaning the Sultan's controversial decisions had an impact beyond his own state. Other rulers feared the scandal could tarnish the institution's image. His swift abdication earlier in 2019 had already raised concerns, and now, with his refusal to acknowledge his son, the situation had only worsened. But while the palace worked to distance itself from the controversy, Oksana was preparing for a battle of her own, one that would take the dispute beyond royal halls and into the courts. Determined to secure her son's future, Oksana took the fight to the legal system. She insisted that the child was indeed Sultan Muhammad V's biological son and sought financial support fitting of royal lineage. The former beauty queen made her case public, revealing private messages and details of their relationship to prove that the Sultan had once embraced fatherhood, only to later abandon both her and their child. Her demands weren't just about money. Oksana wanted formal recognition for her son, something the Sultan had steadfastly refused to provide. In response, the palace maintained its silence, neither confirming nor denying her claims. Without an official acknowledgement, the child was left without any royal status or inheritance rights. In Malaysia, the use of triple talaq, especially in such a high-profile case, sparked debates. Some questioned the fairness of a system where a man could end a marriage unilaterally, leaving his wife and child without recourse. Others believed Oksana should have understood the cultural and religious implications before marrying into the monarchy. Despite the mounting public attention, the Sultan remained withdrawn from the spotlight. His only apparent response came in the form of legal maneuvers, ensuring that he had no direct involvement in the case. But even as he sought to distance himself, the controversy refused to fade. Oksana was not done fighting, and soon the battle over their son would take yet another dramatic turn. After the divorce, Oksana Voevodina turned her focus to securing a future for her son, one that matched the royal blood she claimed ran through his veins. With the Malaysian legal system offering little leverage, she brought the fight to British courts, filing for financial support under the UK's child maintenance laws. The move wasn't just strategic, it was symbolic. It signaled her refusal to be silenced or sidelined by the Sultan's wealth or status. Her legal team described the Sultan's initial offer as derisory, a monthly amount that barely covered basic expenses, let alone reflected the child's royal lineage. In court documents, Oksana argued that her son deserved more than survival. He deserved a life worthy of his heritage. This wasn't about vanity, it was about legitimacy, dignity, and rights. She requested significant provisions: a multi-million-pound home in London, a team of nannies and staff, private education, security, and a trust fund to secure the boy's future. The figure she named was eye-popping: over £30,000 a month in maintenance. Critics called it excessive. Supporters said she was finally holding the powerful accountable. Through it all, Sultan Muhammad V remained silent. He neither appeared in court nor commented publicly. His legal representatives handled the matter quietly, ensuring that no statements from the palace would feed the headlines. But silence, in this case, didn't mean surrender. It was a tactic, one that would shape the next phase of this high-stakes battle. Oksana's legal strategy relied on one key argument: her son was the rightful heir to a royal lineage and deserved a lifestyle reflecting that status. In court filings, she claimed that Sultan Muhammad V had once promised to provide for their child, before abruptly severing all ties. Now, she was demanding he fulfill that responsibility. The Sultan's legal team countered with a different stance. Their argument: the child was not officially recognized as royal, and therefore no extravagant financial obligations were required. They maintained that Oksana had no legal standing to demand a mansion, luxury staff, or an excessive monthly allowance. Instead, they offered a modest sum, £1,350 per month, an amount that Oksana's lawyers ridiculed as unbefitting of a former king's child. As media outlets picked up the case, public opinion split. Some saw Oksana as a mother fighting for her son's rightful inheritance. Others accused her of exploiting her past royal connection for personal gain. The contrast between a Russian beauty queen and a reclusive Malaysian royal made for sensational headlines, keeping the story alive in tabloids across Europe and Asia. Despite the growing media frenzy, the Sultan remained unmoved. His strategy was clear: avoid public engagement at all costs. But as the case escalated, it became evident that silence alone wouldn't make the controversy disappear. For years, Sultan Muhammad V had distanced himself from the controversy surrounding his son. He had never publicly acknowledged the child, refused to engage with Oksana's claims, and kept his personal life out of the spotlight. Yet, despite his silence, one undeniable fact remained. The child existed, and his mother was determined to ensure he wouldn't be ignored. Then, in a surprising turn of events, reports surfaced that the former king had finally agreed to meet his son. The question was, why now? Some speculated that the relentless legal battle had finally forced his hand. Oksana had taken her case to international courts, ensuring that the world knew about the dispute. The pressure to settle the matter, either privately or through legal means, was growing. Would a meeting signal a potential resolution, or was it simply an attempt to quiet the controversy? Others believed that royal family influence played a role. Malaysia's monarchy thrives on tradition and stability. Public scandals, particularly those involving an ex-king, could cast a shadow over the institution's reputation. Some sources hinted that influential figures within the royal circles urged Sultan Muhammad V to meet his son, not as a gesture of reconciliation, but as damage control. Yet another possibility lingered. Had Oksana orchestrated the meeting herself? If so, how did she manage to bring the former king face to face with the child he had avoided for years? While Sultan Muhammad V's initial silence could be attributed to his desire to shield himself from further public scrutiny, it became clear that the pressure was mounting from all sides. Oksana, ever determined to secure a future for her son, had taken every opportunity to highlight the ongoing neglect. The legal battles in the UK were intensifying, and international media coverage of the saga had placed the royal family under a microscope. Some royal insiders hinted that it wasn't just the legal pressures or the media attention that swayed the Sultan's decision. It was the influence of key figures within Malaysia's monarchy. The Sultan's abdication had already created instability, and this unresolved matter had the potential to further damage the royal image. In the past, Malaysian monarchs had carefully maintained their public and private personas, and scandals that threatened that balance were treated with urgency. However, another angle emerged: the role of Oksana herself. Behind the scenes, sources suggested that she had strategically maneuvered to create a scenario where the Sultan had little choice but to meet with their son. Whether through legal channels, diplomatic back channels, or public campaigns, Oksana had ensured that the pressure remained on the Sultan. It was a moment of confrontation, one that few would have predicted. But the timing seemed too calculated to be coincidence. the long-awaited meeting between Sultan Muhammad V and his son was shrouded in secrecy. No official announcement was made, and few details emerged about the nature of the encounter. However, the circumstances surrounding the meeting suggested that it was not just a simple, spontaneous reunion. It was the culmination of months, if not years, of strategic pressure. Oksana's role in orchestrating the meeting cannot be underestimated. While the Sultan had previously refused to acknowledge his son in public, Oksana had worked tirelessly behind the scenes, leveraging legal avenues and public platforms to ensure her demands were heard. Her legal team had been relentless, making it clear that the stakes were high and that the Sultan's avoidance of his son would not go unnoticed by the international community. At the same time, the royal family's influence played a crucial role in nudging Sultan Muhammad V toward this moment. Sources close to the palace indicated that key figures within the royal circle had quietly urged him to meet with his son, not as a father reconnecting with his child, but as a monarch fulfilling a duty to preserve the monarchy's image. Though the exact motivations behind the Sultan's decision remain unclear, it was evident that the combination of legal pressure, royal counsel, and public scrutiny had finally compelled him to act. This meeting was not a spontaneous act of love or fatherly reconciliation. It was a reluctant response to forces far beyond personal desire. The meeting between Sultan Muhammad V and his son was a rare, unexpected moment in a saga marked by secrecy and public spectacle, but it wasn't just a coincidence. Behind the scenes, the pressure on the former king had been mounting, not only from legal forces and public scrutiny but also from powerful figures within Malaysia's royal family. The question on everyone's mind was, what condition led to this rare encounter? The most shocking part of the meeting wasn't just the Sultan's eventual willingness to meet his son. It was the condition under which it happened. Sources close to Oksana indicated that the arrangement wasn't made lightly. The Sultan reportedly agreed to meet his son only after Oksana made a set of demands that went beyond just financial support. She sought a clear, official acknowledgement of the child's royal status. This wasn't simply about maintaining appearances. It was about ensuring her son's future, his inheritance rights, and his place within the royal family's legacy. In exchange for this meeting, Oksana had reportedly made it clear that her son would not be silenced or sidelined any longer. She demanded that the Sultan publicly recognize his role as a father and the boy's rightful heir. However, the full details of any agreement remain shrouded in secrecy, fueling speculation about behind-the-scenes negotiations and possible trade-offs. The Sultan's reaction to the meeting was telling. He did not embrace his son publicly, nor did he offer any warm acknowledgement of their familial bond. Instead, sources indicate that the former king remained distant, almost formal in his demeanor during the encounter. This was not the emotional reunion that many might have expected, nor was it a father seeking reconciliation with his child. Instead, it appeared more as if the meeting was being conducted with a clear understanding of its boundaries. He was fulfilling a duty, not expressing a desire to reconnect on a personal level. Some reports suggest that the Sultan agreed to the meeting as a means of quelling the rising controversy, which had placed his reputation in the royal family under increasing scrutiny. The condition for this rare meeting was likely negotiated by Oksana, who, despite the tension and history of rejection, seemed to have successfully maneuvered her way into securing this one moment of acknowledgement for her son. The public acknowledgement of his royal status, as demanded by Oksana, was a key part of the deal. However, whether or not the Sultan would offer any further recognition of his son's place in the royal family remained uncertain. The meeting appeared to be one of political necessity rather than emotional reconciliation, which left many questioning whether it would be enough to resolve the tensions that had long simmered beneath the surface. The meeting between Sultan Muhammad V and his son was a highly orchestrated event, and the condition behind it was far from ordinary. Oksana had made it clear that this was not just a personal reunion, but a pivotal moment for her son's future. She had demanded not only a meeting, but a formal recognition of his royal lineage, something that would ensure the boy's legitimacy and his rightful place within the royal family's legacy. For Oksana, this wasn't just about closure. It was about securing her son's future and making sure he wasn't forgotten or sidelined by the royal institution. While the Sultan may have agreed to the meeting, his public reaction was cold and distant. There was no warm embrace or open acknowledgement of his son's place in his life or in the royal lineage. Instead, it seemed like a forced acknowledgement, one made under duress rather than out of genuine paternal affection. The Sultan's reluctance to acknowledge his son fully underscored the complexity of the situation. He had been cornered into this meeting by both legal and public pressures. The meeting didn't mark the beginning of a father-son relationship, but rather a calculated response to avoid further public backlash and to resolve an issue that had, for too long, been allowed to fester. Yet, despite the Sultan's cold reaction, Oksana's victory in securing this moment was undeniable. The story of Sultan Muhammad V and his son, from the shocking marriage to the rare meeting, raises a fundamental question. What happens next? Will the Sultan ever publicly claim his son, or will he continue to distance himself from his royal responsibilities as a father? While the recent meeting may have satisfied certain legal and public demands, the path forward remains uncertain. The Sultan's cold and distant response during the meeting indicates that his relationship with his son may never evolve into the traditional father-son bond. The royal family has long been protective of its image, and the Sultan's reluctance to openly acknowledge his son suggests that the boy's place within the royal fold is far from secure. For Oksana, however, securing this moment may be enough to guarantee her son's future, at least in terms of his rights and recognition. But without the Sultan's public embrace, his royal status remains unclear. The lasting impact of this scandal on Malaysia's monarchy cannot be understated. The entire ordeal, from the unexpected marriage to the divorce and subsequent legal battle, has cast a long shadow over the royal family. Sultan Muhammad V's abdication, coupled with his public relations missteps, has already weakened the monarchy's standing in the eyes of both the public and the political elite. If the Sultan continues to avoid publicly acknowledging his son, the monarchy may face further questions about its legitimacy, transparency, and ability to balance personal lives with public duties. As for the future of the child, will he ever truly be accepted as a royal, or will he remain a forgotten prince, an heir whose future is in limbo, with no clear place in the royal hierarchy? The story is far from over, and only time will tell if the Sultan's actions will pave the way for his son's acceptance, or if he will remain on the fringes of Malaysia's royal legacy. Final CTA: if you found this story intriguing, check out our next video on another royal scandal, linked here.